2, 1, let's start.
All right. Well, we're here with our county historian, Ernie Johns. Ernie sadly fell and broke his hip, last weekend, and we got this road dedication being done tomorrow, November 21st, 2015, at 11 o'clock, and Ernie obviously can't make it because he's here at Hickory Woods Nursing Home over here on the Davidson County, Rutherford County line in Laverne, But we brought the sign over here to surprise him. He's been our county historian for a number of years, and with me I've got our Smyrna historian, Marty Luffman, that knows a lot about Smyrna history of the Jefferson community and Jefferson Pike. And our Senator Bill Ketchern's on his way. He got tied up in a meeting. He's on his way, and we kind of pulled off a little surprise for Ernie here. Were you surprised, Ernie? Were you surprised? Well,
very much.
What the history of that? You want to start off a little bit of the history of the Jefferson community?
The Jefferson community started a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
It started with Robert Weekley coming in the area.
Robert Weekley?
Robert Weekley got a land grant there.
Yep.
And
now, when he got the land grant, wasn't that part of North Carolina?
I believe it was.
The area that you're currently in, when he came here, he was a North Carolina resident.
Yes.
And he got the land grant, as I understand it, from the King of England and the governor of North Carolina.
Yeah, I've heard you mention that on the radio with us a couple times,
And then from what I understand, he brought his wife, who was her last name, her maiden name was Locke, L-O-C-K-E, and he was a co-founder of Old Jefferson. Is that correct?
I think that's right. He ended up, I don't know if he lived there or not. He ended up living in Nashville.
That's my understanding, that he built the home that you currently have. Is that correct?
I think that's right.
Mm-hmm. He built it in the late 1700s, and then as Old Jefferson grew, it was once the county seat or the capital.
County seat.
County seat.
Okay, and then they moved it from Old Jefferson to Murfreesboro, and from Murfreesboro to Nashville.
Well, that's a little confusing. My understanding is that Jefferson only became a capital for one day.
That's what, I've always heard.
But it did give us that one day of fame. So, anyhow, the man that built your home that you grew up in, he created a place called Lockland, a mansion in East Nashville, and started his own city. Now, he named his mansion Lockland because that was his wife's maiden name. So he did it in honor of her.
That was days before my time, kind of.
Well, a little bit.
Interested in.
Well, the home so you're saying, I didn't know this. You're telling me that the what we're referring to as the King's John home, your mother's home, Liberty Hill, that y'all may call it, your mom I think referred to as that. You're saying that Weekley man built that home.
That's my understanding.
All right, I didn't know that. Okay.
Is that correct? I mean, I may be wrong, but I was under the impression.
You're right.
Well, Ernie had shared with me years ago, as long with Tom Sage, had told me that the Trail of Tears come down through there in front of that home.
Yes.
And what we're talking about is old Jefferson Pike in Smyrna, off of State Route
They're trying to
266.
Now.
Or Route 102.
Save it because of the Trail of Tears.
Why is that important to you?
It's important to them because the Trail of Tears is one of the few buildings still standing that's in the Trail of Tears.
Yes, sir.
That's correct. Actually, my understanding is it's like the only one still standing that was there during the Trail of Tears. The historical significance of your home is beyond comprehension. We need to actually make that as the Sam Davis home. Make it a historical landmark.
That's what I agree with you. I agree with you there. we need to be saved for that reason.
Yeah,
But it's just, some people think, well, we got the Sam Davis home, we don't need another house like that.
Has anyone said that? Have you felt that have you heard anybody say that though?
No,
Yeah. I've never heard that. I mean, I know that history may not mean a lot to a lot of folks. I mean, obviously it means a lot to us. I'd seen, sadly, about 2 weeks ago, a house in Eagleville, antebellum home burnt down. And we're losing. I've seen the other house over there on Amaville Road. Remember, is it Mr. Sharp? I knew Mr. Sharp over there by Seminary Road. He was in the Gideons with me, and he's passed away. He was Bob Spivey's Sunday school teacher over at the Methodist Church, and they just demolished that home. I think last month. You hadn't seen that? Yeah, they tore it down.
It was even demolished.
Yeah, they tore it down. Yes, sir. It's gone. And you know, and the developer, he's just, I mean, he's got to make his numbers work and the lot costs work, and it's hard to preserve those things because a lot of folks don't have much interest, and it's hard to get the numbers to work too, to get people to donate or to get folks involved.
Well, I was a developer and a builder all my life. That's what I've done.
Yes, sir.
One house, particularly in Smyrna. It's not significant. It wasn't anything great happened, anything like that.
One of the significant things about the man that built your house, Colonel Weekley, he was asked to negotiate a treaty with the Chickasaw. So he not only had he created a comfort zone with the Indians, and so when the Trail of Tears happened, that was a difficult thing for him to accept because he was their friends, and the Chickasaw, above all, they were significant businessmen. They controlled the Columbia Duck River area.
What you join me?
Well, look at here.
How you doing, boy?
How you do, sir?
How you doing,
Good to
Ernie?
see you. Good to see you.
I'm gonna let you join it, and you go say
Ernie.
hello, Ernie.
Down the road,
Okay.
everybody.
Good to see you. And I feel
Good seeing you.
I feel real distinguished having you been in your company.
Well, thank you. So you got No Shave November going on, and
I don't know.
just relaxed and taking it easy, huh?
Got out of him.
Are you trying to grow back gray hair? You want to be just like me when you grow up, don't you?
Trying to look like you.
Yeah, I can tell that.
Exactly, but I'm not sure it's going to come back. It's coming back a little bit. Mustache came back, but the rest of the
No, it's coming back. It looks pretty good from behind.
rest of the hair on my body is not coming back.
I never had any hair on my body, so it's not that big
It's
a
not a
deal.
bad. It's not a bad thing. You get a little.
I shave once every 3 days.
Get a little manscaping going on.
We were having a really interesting conversation with Ernie here about his home place on Jefferson Pike being built by Colonel Weekley in the late 1700s.
Right.
And Colonel Weekley was very prominent as far as helping establish Smyrna and
Sure.
and Old Jefferson. And that's where we were when.
Weekley Lane,
hmm
named after Mr. Weekley. How you? So you fell and hurt yourself?
Yeah, I broke his hip.
Oh man.
I didn't really break it. I cracked it.
Well, that's okay.
But
Have they done surgery?
No,
Not going to.
I hope I don't. They're not gonna do it.
Okay. I miss
I'll
seeing
stay
you.
away
I haven't
from
seen
that.
you forever.
But
But we were talking about the significance of keeping that home
Yeah. the
and
King-
making it a historical
King John's-
monument.
King John's home.
yeah,
I mean, we did keep, we did make I'll put it on the National Register, Jesse James's home on Fatherland Street, which is like 2 streets over from Laughlin,
Yeah.
so.
Bill, you want to kind of talk about what you're doing on the home?
What I'm trying to do is we passed a bill. Steve McDaniel and myself, Representative Steve McDaniel, and he's from down in West Tennessee. And he's a big Civil War reenactor, and we passed a bill that will allow us to go taxes that go for property. And I'm not sure how exactly it works, but for all property taxes, the state gets us a very small percentage, but you do that cumulative over the whole state, then it amounts up to a whole lot of money. So there's a lot of money in that, and nobody's tapped it because everybody never sees it. Okay, it's not part of the budget or anything else, and money just keeps funneling in there. So we're gonna, the language that's in the current code says that it can be used to for wetlands, it can be used for expansion of parks, it can be used for expansion of greenways and trailways and historical places. So that's what my attempt is, to go in and try to get at least $150,000 out to pay Frank. Frank said he'd sell it to us for $150,000. Okay, and then I have a verbal commitment from the Sons of the Confederacy, SCV down in Elm Springs in Columbia, that they will come in, because the state really doesn't like to have a piece of historical property and then take the perpetual maintenance. You know, that's what has to be budgeted every year for the upkeep. The Sons of the Confederate veterans, they have a lot of deep pockets and a lot of extra money, and I think it would be perfect for them to come over, take it over, rehabilitate the facility, turn it into a tourist type opportunity, you know, to increase tourism in Smyrna, because it's so close to Sam Davis home. You know, when people get off, they can see that and then come see this at the same time. So that's,
I think it would be a good opportunity for Smyrna.
yeah, I think so.
We talked about the Trail of Tears earlier coming through there.
Coming through there and having camped there, and then the number of battles that took place. I think there were like 16 supply wagons that were burned at one time during the.
So Wheeler's Raid around.
Yeah, Wheeler's Raid. Yeah, they were coming to Murfreesboro. Bringing supplies.
Well, it was a major port of entry too. We had actually steamboats that would come up the Stones River
Right.
and dock. We had piers right over there where old Jefferson is. The piers that would wharfs that would go out into the water.
I don't believe those piers ever functioned very much.
I wondered how they would navigate that.
The water wasn't deep enough.
Only during the winter, right?
Well, they built one up there. They built a steamboat.
Well, they'd float, what would you call, like barges back then? It would be the
Flat bottom.
flat bottom boats.
Flat bottoms.
Down.
Yeah, that's all they
You
had.
could use it in the wintertime. That's in the summertime. It was.
Yeah, you'd have to get down and walk. Yeah.
Well, yeah. There's the remains of one dock or pier or wharf or whatever you want to call it still left over there. You can see where the posts are coming up out of the water, where where you would go out to the boat, you know, meet the boat and tie up.
Be interesting.
Well,
So the significance of that area where your house is and your mom lived and your dad lived and everything, it's overwhelming when
Very
you
historical.
look at the big picture of everything that transpired from the 1700s when the Colonel Weekley got involved.
Right.
they got
How'd the name Liberty Hill come about, Ernie?
Liberty Hill came about because one of my grandmothers, I believe it was one of my great grandmothers, named it that because the place they had over in North Carolina was named Liberty Hill.
Okay.
Okay.
Up close to Hillsborough, North Carolina. A lot of activity up there in Hillsborough, North Carolina. That's where a lot of your Revolutionary soldiers were.
Yeah.
General William Francis Nash actually lived in Hillsborough, North Carolina. It's very significant.
Well, so many of them came here. I mean, Murphy, Colonel Murphy, and
Granny White.
Yeah.
She lived there.
The property that I live on, Mr. Blanton, he was just a corporal in the Revolution, but he got the grant, the land grant to come and settle.
Right.
And so the foundation, his house is in the backyard. You know, of course, we're back up to the battlefield. And they used his house during the Civil War as a hospital. He had passed away like 10 years before, but his wife and daughter, Mr. Blanton's wife and daughter, lived in the house. And then, of course, Wilkinson Pike was the main battle line.
Yeah, right.
You know, for as the Confederate forces came from over where now let's name them all, used to be Shovel Highway, and came this way. You know, back towards the railroad tracks.
Right. Your brother, Frank, when he lived over there where they created Lee Victory Parkway interchange right there, he had a house next door to Frank Crossland. My understanding was there was a fort there at one time, that's where the fort going into Murfreesboro was maintained.
Right.
They took the fort down, and he built his home on the foundation
Oh, really?
of the fort. Is that correct? That's my understanding.
That's what
Yeah, I had heard
I
that.
hated to
as
see
well.
him build a house up there in that fort,
Yeah.
but I didn't take any offense against it. Frank and I were good friends, very good friends.
Yep. Ernie, people always ask me, name you and Frank are brothers, and then you got Tom that's your brother. Can you name your brothers and
Tom
your
and
sisters?
John and Mary and Martha.
Okay, and then you name some of your cousins.
I got
Name your favorite one.
Oh,
Steve.
Name some. Because people are always asking me if you and Paul and Steve are brothers, and y'all are cousins.
Cousins.
Mhm.
I don't know which one is.
Now, the
I'm
home that
kidding you about
Frank built over there on Jefferson, there was an antebellum mansion there at one time.
There's a house there. I know that the Holloway's occupied. I wouldn't call it a mansion.
I remember it being 2-story with columns. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've got something else in mind.
Nah, you are thinking about a house across the road,
Okay.
belonged to the Espy family. The Espys, I think, owned that property. The
All
Juniors
right.
owned.
Who was that?
Espy.
Espy. Okay.
That would you have considered that one an antebellum mansion, or was that just a big home?
That was a home bigger than big as any of them.
It was. It was a very large home.
But
So the significance of that road is probably got more than just about any in Rutherford County.
Oh, yeah.
When you
Yeah.
think about the historical aspects of it, all the major homes that was there, and the Trail of Tears, and the Indians coming down through there, and Colonel Weekley's involvement,
That's our
and we
first county seat, right? Jefferson.
right
What year was that?
1732.
Was it that early? I thought it was like more. It's like 1802, 1810, somewhere in there.
it was just right before that.
Because then the county became the capital for a while. Rutherford County became the capital.
2 years. The capital was in Murfreesboro for 2 years, state capital.
You know where it is? You know where the boat plant on Old Nashville Highway is?
Yeah?
It was built on the foundation of the Capitol. Right?
Are you? No.
About Sky Harbor.
No, it was my understanding that it was where
Where's that now?
Bank of America. There was some buildings right in there.
Oh, okay.
In downtown
In
Murfreesboro?
downtown Murfreesboro. Yeah, because when I was in Boy Scouts, Whitney Stegall called us and told us that there was they were getting ready to start dismantling that because it was the old Commerce Union Bank was getting ready to
Okay.
come there and build it. And he said, and a lot of the wood inside of that is all walnut. And so he called Dad because we all went to church together, First Methodist, and he said, bring your Boy Scout troop down here, and he said, go in there and get some of that salvaged wood, that walnut.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all went and got a piece of walnut, and we carved our neckerchief slides out of it because it came from the
That's
state.
good.
Came from the state
Really?
capital.
Well, I had got
Yeah,
my
so-
information from Haynes, Baltimore. You remember him?
I remember Haynes. That was
I remember Haynes.
I remember Haynes. Yeah, that was
He's a good fellow.
Oh, I love the man to death.
his
Awesome guy.
His son-in-law is the one that what was his name? Took his place as registered deeds. Remember they kicked him out of office.
Yeah.
Filed a lawsuit against him.
All the story. I
Yeah.
remember something about the
remember
I
story.
do.
I don't know the name.
Let's leave his name out right now, okay?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Ernie, one thing he was up on the radio with me years ago, and you shared a story with me about a black guy that grew up on y'all's farm. What was that guy's name? You remember? And you had a lot of respect for him. You remember that? You told me.
Muse.
What was his name?
Jimmy D Muse.
How do you
Muse.
spell the last name?
M-U-S-E.
M-U-S-E. Muse. Okay.
I used to go see him at times.
Yeah.
Went to see his wife after he died.
So he grew up on y'all's farm then.
Yes.
Okay.
He was, his father said that they were from Leanna. And I found them in Leanna in the 1870 census records.
Oh, you looked up his back then. But I remember you were telling me years ago like that a lot of the blacks wouldn't come in, like to the dinner table, and your mom always treated them like family.
My mother always, I remember they'd come up to the house in the morning after breakfast and get the breakfast there. They'd get breakfast with the family right there. But they wouldn't sit at the main table. They'd sit off out on the side, at a little side table. Maybe that was disrespectful of a family of black folks. They wasn't completely black though.
I remember you telling me it was like I think you mentioned him like he was like an uncle or somebody that you really had a lot of admiration for.
Yeah.
Now, what was the area that you had a nickname for the area you lived in? Was it Seed Tick or Tick Seed or Small Tick, Big Tick?
Seed Tick is it called. That's the area off sort of to the west of us, north of us.
Oh, really? To the west of you, that'd be that subdivision across the street. What's that? Jefferson. What's it called? Jefferson Springs? Is that what's called across the street from the house there?
A little further than a mile or two further.
Okay.
How'd he get his name?
Gillsville.
I don't know. People named it just like somebody didn't just talking. They said, "Well, he's from over at Seed Tick." That's the way of saying it. He's from over there.
Yeah.
Well, where was the old racetrack? There was an old horse racetrack.
It was down at just below our house. In a big bottom. Co-engineers bottom now.
You're talking about behind, to the right of Frank's, your brother Frank's house?
Mm-hmm.
Is that where it was at? Okay.
At the best of my knowledge.
Which will be behind Gillsville, Gill's Ace Hardware, and Frank's house.
Yes.
That was an old.
But I can't.
Did you ever see any remnants of that? Because
Never did.
I was talking to Gilbert the other day, and he's been over there, and he said he's never found anything. He was asking me where it was at. So I think it was right where you're describing it.
Well, horse racing in the 1800s was very prominent. There was probably in the Middle Tennessee area at least 100 racetracks. Where the fairgrounds is on 231,
Oh yeah.
they had a racetrack
Yeah.
there. And then in Nashville,
I remember seeing the remnants when I was young.
yeah, you could
Yeah.
see the outline of
Yeah.
the track.
Yeah, exactly.
But
You talking over by the Dodge store, where the juvenile detention
No.
facility
Yeah,
is.
back
that
behind
workhouse?
juvenile detention, but a little bit further down. That's where the remnants used to
Okay.
be.
Yeah.
You know, and they're behind Shoney's.
I don't remember that.
even Jesse and Frank James owned a racetrack on the Cumberland River over there. They had their own, it was called the Blood Sport. And they had their own racetrack. There's a brick place. They make bricks there now. I can't think of the name of the company, but it's a brick manufacturer.
I know what you're talking about.
You do?
Yeah,
And there used to be
yeah,
a restaurant
yeah,
called
sure.
The Wharf or something like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
That's where the
Down
racetrack
end of the
was.
river. Mhm.
That's where the racetrack was. So racetracks were not uncommon. It was between racetracks and preachers and schools. We were in Overkill. Because if you were a teacher, you always had a job. You always had an income. If you were a preacher, you were always going to get fed somewhere.
It's sort of like this place here. This place here is a pretty nice place to be.
It's a
Take
beautiful
care of.
facility. Yeah.
Oh, it is nice.
Yeah, you know where we're sitting there used to be an antebellum, or what I call antebellum, you call a large house, but it was a very large antebellum looking
I
home
remember it.
sitting right here.
Yeah, I remember that.
And the developer bulldozed it down to build the subdivision, and
Well, wasn't it right? Wasn't up this road right here? I remember it being up the road. You talking about when the truck stop used to be here? The old truck stop. was
Yeah,
right here, and
they
was
call
like
it-
back up the hill here.
they called it
Yeah.
the
I can't tell you because I didn't. They brought me down there one night, and I don't know exactly where I am.
And then the club across the street. That's something you'd probably.
oh yeah, I mean
What was the club across the street over here?
it was
Exxon
it
is?
was a rock castle
Rock
type.
Castle.
Rock Castle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then when that guy was murdered there or killed or whatever,
Yeah.
they pretty much just
It's where everybody turned to go to Four Corner.
right.
You all thinking about
And
the place to go Place to go was across the road at Ma's place over there.
Where was that at?
I don't know what her name was. She had a place over there that she ran with a bunch of gals.
Oh, that was right up here on the left, right before you get to Murfreesboro Road. It was a large pink home, and she had about a half a dozen pink cottages.
Yeah.
What are you looking at me like that for?
I just want to see a twinkle in your eye.
Hey, I got excited
Where
thinking
is
about
this
that. It was right up here on the left.
On the
Okay,
left.
when I-24 stopped at Old Hickory Boulevard.
Yeah.
To get to Murfreesboro, you had to get on Old Hickory and come through Laverne.
That's correct.
And Laverne was like a hot spot then. We had
Oh,
a
yeah.
Stuckey's with campgrounds and
Yeah.
Texaco stations, and of course we had the Pink Palace up here
Yeah,
with
Stuckey's turned into Perks. Fireworks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
You know,
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
what's that?
That turned into Perks fireworks up here?
Yeah, that was the Stuckey's.
yeah.
I
You
didn't
can look at
know
the
that.
design of the building. All the Stuckey's were.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Stuckey's.
Okay, you just taught me
Well,
something.
long lasting business.
Yeah,
It seemed like it would last forever.
yeah.
And then we had like 2 or 3 motels going down through here till you get to Smyrna, and because it was a very populated, heavily traveled road back in the day. 41 went from Chicago to Florida, maybe? Is that right?
Well, yeah, that's the way that Al Capone used to travel from Chicago, and he'd always stop in Murfreesboro.
Yeah,
On his way to Florida.
right.
That's where Murfreesboro got its name, was Little Chicago, because there was prostitutes and cocaine all down on Lytle Street.
Wow.
A lot of
Laney.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. There's a lot of that going
all
on.
the,
And
all the gangsters stopped in Murfreesboro.
I might edit some of this video.
Dr. Homer Pitters wanted, I never forgot that. I just thought that was so interesting because the churches came in and kicked them out, and it was part of Murfreesboro's history of cleaning up Maine.
yeah.
You know,
I remember there was some
churches took over. Church of Christ and the Baptist. I mean, it was,
Yeah.
it was huge.
Well, I know there was some hotels that was bulldozed down real quick, and there was some
Right.
that was burned down real fast
Right.
because they were a haven for corruption.
And Al Capone would stop at that place, and I think the restaurant's still open up in Mont Eagle. He would stop up there to eat.
Yeah,
as well.
smokehouse.
really?
Yeah, smokehouse.
hmm Yeah, he stopped up there quite frequently.
Wonder
That
if he
was
was.
before my time.
Mine too, but I just remember Dr. Pitter, you know, was at MTSU, he was vice president
Dr.
of
Pitter was a
MTSU.
good fellow. He knew an awful lot.
Oh, he
Was
was
he-
so smart.
Who was, before you were like historian in Rutherford County, who was kind of your predecessor? Who was before?
Dr. Pitter was a county
Pitter.
historian for a period of time, and I don't know, there was probably a gap in there. I don't know, before Ernie became.
Where did Walter Hoover come in?
Walter Hoover never was the county historian.
Hear more about, detail about Smyrna more.
But
Now tell us a little bit about you being on the county commission, Ernie.
I was on it for 8 years.
Did you enjoy it?
You got
Very
elected.
much.
You got elected the same time I did in 1990.
And regretted it. I got off.
Did you really? Yeah,
But it was time. It was taking too much of a time.
yeah.
It was
You were still building then, still building some.
taking my time away.
Custom
from me,
homes.
so. And one of the last things I did up there was get the county. I made a motion to raise the county commissioners' rates.
Yeah.
Double.
Yeah,
Yeah.
per diem. Yeah, you get,
Yeah.
And then somebody else raised it triple. I think it's McAdoo.
McAdoo.
you need some additional income, okay?
I can see McAdoo doing that.
McAdoo was a very unusual character.
Wow, he was up there before y'all were, weren't he? Wasn't he?
Oh yeah. McAdoo been on there for a long time.
He's been on now since when they first started.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was back there with Rucker Rakes and.
I'll tell you what, McAdoo's he was always fair to me when I was on there.
Yeah, he was-
Oh, he level-headed, and I'll call him a conservative. You know what I mean?
I think
I
so.
would say
he voted that way.
fiscal
Yeah,
conservative.
Yeah, he
you know?
voted that way.
I want to share a story. I think I've shared this with Ernie and y'all. But before I was going to run for county commission, it was probably maybe 2000, 2001, and I asked Sally Walls.
I'll stand behind between that. Thank you.
But I had
One round.
asked.
There you go.
But I had asked Sally Walls. I said in Smyrna. I said, what about that Mr. Ernie Johns? And I said, what do you think about it? And I always seen you speak up on issues, and she says, he's his own man. You ain't ever gonna buy him. He ain't no one's yes man. And I always liked it. And I called you up the next day, and we met at Hardee's. You remember that?
I don't
We
remember.
were at Hardee's. You don't remember that in Smyrna? Yeah, we hung out there at Hardee's, had some coffee for a while. Yeah.
Sometimes up there on the county commission, you run into something you have to run head on into,
That's right.
and you don't know what the way you go vote.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they wait till the last minute to vote.
Yeah.
That's the
Well,
way it
Colonel
is.
Weekley always introduced himself as a politician. He would say, "I'm a Republican Democrat," and that's what he registered himself as.
What now? Who was that? That
Weekley.
was
Who was that?
who was that? You
Colonel
said
Weekley.
Colonel Wigley.
a Republican Democrat.
That's why he's listed. Is
Okay.
a Republican Democrat.
That's a story I never ever heard.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that either.
Yeah, Wikipedia. There's a lot of stuff in there about him. But there's over on East Nashville on Russell Street. There's a marker dedicated to his home and his efforts in creating his own town. I think it was called Edgefield, maybe over there.
Yeah, they're at Edgefield.
There's that from
Okay,
Nashville.
I believe that's the town he created for himself, and then Metro Nashville, of course, absorbed it.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah, 60.
But they had 5 points right down from where his
Yeah, I know
little
what
community
Concord
was,
is.
and it was a very violent area at the time. And, it's where you had several cities coming in, and people coming into Nashville would use, the different routes coming in, and yeah, there was a lot of there's a lot of bigotry back in there, not necessarily against blacks and whites or anything like that, but just you had the Irish here
That's correct.
that they came in and took over what they call Black Bottom of Nashville, which was 5th Avenue, 4th Avenue, and nobody wanted to live there. You had black people living there, and they came in and run them out and took the shanties, and Jews made businesses out of them, and there's a lot of activity over there
Sure.
that wasn't necessarily all that good. And Nashville deteriorated even further, back in the 70s when we had nothing but prostitutes and
Down on
Lower Broad.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it didn't
that's
have,
where Black Bottoms was.
Yeah, it didn't have a good reputation, Lower Broad, back there in the
But
late 60s.
What's
early 70s.
interesting is on 4th Avenue, there's one saloon left that's still an active saloon
Mhm.
from the 1800s. And I don't know if many people know
Where's
the
that
history. It's on 4th Avenue. And for the life of me, I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's still an open, running saloon. Got the original doors on it and everything.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. And there's some. It's right across from Bridgestone, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's
Okay.
2 old houses right there.
Really?
Yeah,
Mhm.
the 2 old houses right across from Bridgestone.
And there's a park fairly close, a
Right.
sitting area park
Mhm.
type thing, yeah. There's so much interesting stuff about that actually connects to your home, your
Mhm.
road, your street.
Well, Weekley Lane, tell us a little about Weekley Lane, about Weekley Lane itself, going out to Castle Pike and where it got its name at then.
Well, it's Colonel Weekley, that's
So he never lived on that road or anything like that. Okay.
just recognized him.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like Ernie John's Highway.
Yeah, exactly.
Has the trouble with the whole house. It was occupied by the Johns family after the last, when Frank Jr. got it. But it's so close to the Sam Davis home. And everybody thinks it's not. Why we want to save it?
Mhm.
Why you want to save an old house? One of them, and looking in the, well, it's in 2 miles or less, the other house.
Mhm.
But the Sam Davis home occupies something, one particular niche, and that's,
Mhm.
and they got on a road right now to do something with the old house.
Yeah.
They've got a group that met last night in Smyrna that's supposed to be doing something about
Mhm.
getting the money up to buy it.
Good.
Well, tomorrow we're going to be out there at Gillsville. I know you can't make it. Senator Kitchen's going to speak. Marty's going to speak. Greg Tucker, our county historian now, he's going to be out there. He was going to try to make it today. He couldn't attend. And Toby Francis is going to be out there too. So we're going to have a good crowd tomorrow, and out there for you, Ernie. And we're going to also talk. I got is it Pat Clemens, Ernie? Mr. Pat Clemens.
Yeah.
I think he's going to speak about the importance of that old home. And thank you, man. And the importance of saving that old home. So what this video will probably be done is to also help let other folks know what your wishes are too, what you'd like to see done.
You know, I've got mixed wishes. I remember the old house with a very good wishes, because I grew up there.
Yeah.
Well, I think probably the most significant is the fact that people sit in the front yard and on the porch watching the Indians being relocated.
Wow.
To Oklahoma. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How you doing? Well, what I'd like to do is I'll go ahead and wrap up. You talk about real quick the importance of the home, and then we'll close out with him talking about the importance of that home. Is that cool? I'll start and you start,
Okay.
and then we'll kind of make it a few minutes. Is that okay?
All right, hang on just a second. We'll get up there a little bit while I finish up. See you.
Thank you, sir.
See you.
Thank you.
All right, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we're going to wrap up and just want to talk about the importance of not only recognizing Ernie Johns and his service to this county and the history and his love of history, naming Ernie Johns Highway tomorrow, which is November 21st, 11 o'clock. We're doing this, 2015. But I want to just mention how important it is to this home that's important to Ernie, important to Marty and Senator Kitchen, and why it's important to the rest of y'all.
I think the significance is the fact that the home was probably one of the original homes here. It's one of the last homes standing that actually witnessed the Trail of Tears. It was built by one of the founders, Colonel Robert Weekley, who came here and helped found the old Jefferson city or community or town, and then went to Nashville and created Lockland, East Nashville. So I think the significance of that home far outweighs any of the detrimental things that anybody could say about it.
Yeah. First, let me just say it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you, Ernie. You and I served for 8 years on the county commission together, and I respect you so much, not only for everything you've done for the community in Smyrna and Rutherford County over the years, being our county historian, but what you represent for that area of Smyrna. And it's important to me to try to help save this home, the King John's home, because it is one of the most historically significant homes available to us that's not already been taken in and turned into some type of museum or something else. And if we can make an attempt to try to salvage that before it's torn down or just collapses because of weather and deterioration and everything else, I think that we need to try to save that, because if we don't save our history, we forget where we come from.
Amen.
And it's so important that we try to preserve that history so other generations can do that. And you've always been it's been part of your life is preserving that history and sharing it. I remember the 3 books that you got published on Rutherford County history, and I bought those from you when you were the county historian. It's so it's and indeed an honor and a pleasure to be here with you, Ernie, and for the dedication of the road, just to let people know that you've played an important part in this community by naming the highway after you.
Well, I'm surprised. What a surprise, the whole thing happening. I know you and Mike thought you had something going last year.
Yeah.
I know it's a challenge to do. I know how politics work.
Yeah.
And
The wheels move slow, don't they?
they work, and I think you got something doing,
Yeah.
and then somebody else gets it.
Yeah.
What if East Tennessee or West Tennessee comes up
Sure.
and take some money away and use it for something else?
Mhm.
But that's the way it works. That's politics.
It is.
But you don't get upset. You don't get mad about it. And
Sometimes we do. Sometimes we do.
Sometimes you got to double down. You
Yeah.
just come out a little harder next year, right?
second time around, and
Mhm.
sometimes not quite as hard.
That's right. That's right. You've already paved some ground and smoothed it out.
Yeah.
Makes it easier next time.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and I appreciate her doing the interview, and appreciate y'all showing up and time coming
Okay.
out. Okay.
All right. You're welcome, Mike.
Thank you.